subscribe.
Hi everybody and welcome. My name's Alison, the unknown piano and the unknown violin tutor. Today is another video of my subscribers videos sections where you, the subscriber, can send me in little video clips and files of you playing anything you like on the violin, and I'll give you some feedback which will not only help you, but it will help everybody else on YouTube as well, especially if you consider yourself to be in a similar situation, or perhaps you're having the same problem as well, and you just want a little bit of help. But also you can see the actual situation, so you can see someone who is going through the same thing as you, and how I can help you kind of remedy the situation. So this next video that I'm going to show you is by Thor, and he is from North Carolina in USA. He's playing Silent Night, which was actually taken from one of my videos that I did a couple of weeks ago of Silent Night. So he's got the sheet music, he's printed out the sheet music that I put in the description underneath, and he's playing that for us all. He's just given us the sound file, so I think it's just a video file of his cat on the bed while he's playing, so we can't actually see, but we can hear. But there's still a few things that I can still point out just from hearing as well. So I'm going to show you the video clip now, and then I'm going to come back and go through a few points. That was Thor playing Silent Night for you all. The first thing I want to mention is that intonation, which is where his fingers are supposed to go on the violin, is actually pretty good. It's not 100% perfect, but I would say for the level that he's actually at and what he's managed to achieve in the time that he has, I think the intonation is pretty good actually. And anything else is something that he will not only develop by ear later on, but it's something that obviously he can work on now. He's going to be aware of. Intonation is probably one of the hardest things to actually solve on the violin, so it's just a case of listening, getting used to the pitches and the notes, what's in tune, what's not in tune, and that sort of thing. So the intonation is actually pretty good. You might notice that there is a slight sort of lag or a slight delay between the notes that you hear and the bow, and what that is, that's a very common problem that I hear, and it's basically where the bow is moving faster than the fingers. I'm right-handed, so my left hand is not quite as fast as my right hand, and it never will be because my right hand's my dominant hand. However, you know, I have been playing the violin for about 26 years, so I'd say that, you know, my left hand is pretty much caught up to what my right hand does, but you'll find at the beginner stages that that might not be so much the case, and that your left hand might drag or not move quite as fast as your right hand bow wants to. So what's actually happening is, say for example he's got a third finger on the A string and his next finger is, or the next note is, a second finger. What he's doing, he's playing the third finger on the A string, but then he starts to bow for the next note, but he hasn't quite moved his third finger to the second finger yet. So he gets that kind of sound. Sorry for the intonation there, I'm trying to kind of create a delay there. Like, I mean, it's like I say, it's very difficult for me to, a lot of these problems are very difficult for me to kind of demonstrate to you, because there's something that I've worked on many years ago, so it's very difficult for me to demonstrate. But coming from another YouTube subscriber, it's great because you can actually hear the same problem literally that you're actually having. So excuse my intonation there, but I'm trying to demonstrate the drag or the lag there. So basically he's playing a note, and then as he's bowing for the next note, his finger from the first note hasn't quite moved on to the second finger yet, so you're getting a slight delay from the first finger when he moves on to the next note. And that's what's happening there. So all he really has to do is just practice trying to make his fingers move a bit quicker. But to be honest with you, that's, now he's aware of the situation, he can sort that out. But it's pretty much something that it's a time thing. It's just getting your hand moving into a new situation. No more than it was when you first held the bow. You know, a lot of people sort of hold the bow like this, but you know, holding it like this seems very awkward to start with. But now, a couple of weeks down the line, it's just, you know, it's just like wearing a wristwatch. You don't actually feel that you've got the wristwatch on. So it just feels really nice and natural. And when you pick up the bow, that's how you grab the bow, you know, and that's how it is. Another thing that I'd like to point out as well is that it doesn't sound very smooth for Silent Night. So I think we can get it going a little bit smoother. Now, Thor was playing everything on open bows. Sorry, he was playing everything on separate bows there. So everything was on separate bows there, and what he was also doing as well is sort of stopping the bow a little bit too much. Again, it's very difficult for me to kind of demonstrate that because I've spent so many years trying not to do sound problem, so it is very difficult for me to demonstrate that. But what he's doing is just sort of stopping the bow too much and not making it a nice fluid consistent movement. Now what you need to do is, when you get to the bottom of the bow, or when you get to the end of the bow before you need to take another bow in the other direction, is instead of just sort of stopping it, try and smooth that edge as you take it up. When you get to the top, smooth that edge so you take it down. So it's almost like you get the nice consistent sound. So it almost needs to sound like the listener can't tell that you've changed bow at all. Obviously, even though that you have, we don't want to make it sound like you've changed bow, so the sound keeps on going. You'll get a slight kind of, slight sort of dip there where you have changed direction, but for all intents and purposes it'll sound really nice and smooth. I suppose it's a bit like a swimmer, you know, when the swimmers are doing their laps and they'll do sort of a flip under and then push their feet off to eject them away from the side again, and it's nice and smooth. They don't get up to the side, stop, turn around and come back the other way. They do the nice movements so they can push off again, so it's nice and smooth. So it's almost as if it's going around in a nice circle, and instead of just, you know, the bows being quite jagged. Another thing he can do to actually make it sound smooth whilst he's still working on trying to get the bow transition really smooth is to slur some of the notes. And slurring is when you're playing more than one note in the same bow direction. So I did Silent Night, Holy Night, all in one, in two bows there, rather than Silent Night instead of all separate bows there. That will give the illusion that the bow is going nice and smooth as well, because you've smoothed out some of the notes there. And then of course, when you get to the end of those bows, you still need to try and make them smooth so that you can still get the transition there nice and smoothly. But if you're slowing some of the notes, the smoothness will automatically come into it, and you will get that nice kind of, you'll get a much better phrase length, because the phrases will be less jerky and they'll be all under one roof kind of thing. They'll be nice and smooth. I think there was just one or two occasions where we had a slight hitting of another string somewhere else. Again, I mean, that's just a time thing. That's just getting to know the instrument, and that's just getting to know, you know, the level of where the violin is. If you think that I've been playing the violin for about 26 years, this is my second proper violin that I've had for about 3 or 4 years now. The one before that I had for 15, 16, 17 years. So that one was my best friend for 17 years. If you had a best friend for 17 years, there's probably nothing that you don't know about them. So I know every inch, well, the old one particularly, I knew every inch of the old violin, and I knew the angle of the strings. I knew exactly where I needed to be so I didn't hit any other strings. I had to get used to that again when I had this violin, but because I'd already been playing so many years, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't too much of a big deal for me. So it's just knowing the angle of the strings there and just trying not to hit them. And it is possible to not hit any strings at all. So it does happen very occasionally, but if you are hitting other strings, it's just because the bow angle isn't there. I've done a video on this, how not to hit other strings as well, so you can search that on the channel, or I think it's in violin techniques in one of the categories on my channel as well, if you want to have a look. But it is just getting the angle of the arm and knowing where it is. If the bow's up here and your arm's down, then you're going to be hitting strings and vice versa, so you just need to sort out the angle of where the bow is. So I think that's everything I need to mention. I just want to say a big thank you to Thor for letting us have the video, and just for helping everybody out on YouTube as well as you as well. So thanks very much. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you all next time.
Subscribe.